The Rubik's Cube, as most of the people these days know, has become a global toy. But how was this possible? Just by their appearance and the reason they were created for, no one would have bought these toys in order to play around with them. Certainly, I would not have done so. However, these toys were becoming pretty popular through their own way. These cubes were bland in the first place. The toys seemed weird at first, and the method of playing was complicated as well. However, for some people, it started to give them a sense of intelligence and made them feel as if they were people with special talents who could solve any puzzle later on. The first Rubik's Cube was made by a Hungarian sculptor and professor named Irina Rubik in 1974 in order to teach his students and make them understand 3D objects better. The first company to license the Rubik's Cube's sales was the Ideal Toy Corp, meaning that they could control who could and who could not sell the Rubik's Cubes. Later in 1980, seven towns started selling the Rubik's Cubes, and Rubik's Cube sales rose even higher. Now, jumping a little bit from the 1980s, let's go all the way to the early 2000s. By 2009, around 350 million Rubik's Cubes were sold throughout the world, making the Rubik's Cube the top sold puzzle game in the whole world. However, would this have been possible if the Rubik's Cube had only one of its kind, the normal 3x3 cube? Back in 1980, when 7 towns started selling the Rubik's Cubes, there was only one kind. However, as competing companies came in, they had to start making the Rubik's Cube in more diversities and even with different aspects. The Rubik's Cube gained so much popularity that even tournaments of different kinds were put in place ever since the 1980s. Nowadays, they even have blindfolded Rubik's Cube solving competitions and competitions which require the attendants to solve the Rubik's Cube either one-handed or underwater. Many might ask how this puzzling toy became such a huge success and what is next for the Rubik's Cube's history. The reason for its popularity is that it was innovative, curious looking, and lastly, colorful. The Rubik's Cube came into the puzzle industry when everything was two-dimensional square pictures of image that they had to put in order. However, the Rubik's Cube allowed the people to solve an actual puzzle, which it was nearly impossible to do so without experience and effort. Therefore, people started to become curious and wanted to solve this puzzle faster than anyone else. Lastly, Rubik's Cubes these days are not sold as much as they did back in the days. Their sales are hugely dropping. Now, there are so many different types of puzzles that the Rubik's Cube seems like things in the past. And as we have learned in the international business class, demand is limited. One cannot expect to sell the same product for the rest of his life. He has to look for different options and products. I guess that is what we should do with the Rubik's Cubes, but not entirely throwing them away. I guess the way in which we can steadily raise the Rubik's Cube's popularity and sales up is by creating another innovative Rubik's Cube like puzzles.